You're now tuning into Pimp Points. In this series of Pimp Points, I want to discuss the topic of the pimping methodology. To better understand the pimping methodology, you have to understand what does pimping mean in my book, How to Pimp Corporate America. When I tell people about the corporate pimp and my book, I always get a few awkward stares, if you will. It's mainly because people don't know where I'm going when I talk about pimping and corporate in the same sentence. To better understand the pimping methodology, you have to understand what does pimping really mean in the connotation and the context that I use it. Pimping really means to upgrade or to make something better. And that's exactly why I wrote my book, because I want people to understand that they can upgrade their careers, they can change their lives for the better, but they have to understand that they have to pimp themselves in order to pimp corporate America. People have to change their habits to achieve success in order to pimp corporate America. Pimping corporate America does not mean manipulating the system or trying to get over on corporate America. This is where the pimping methodology comes in hand, because how I describe pimping, it's a never-ending pimping cycle. Corporations are pimping employees, and employees are pimping corporations. If you think of pimping as, like I mentioned, an upgrade or to make something better, corporations are upgrading employees, and employees are upgrading corporations. I mean, let's face it, corporations need employees so that they can increase their profits and their shareholders and all of that great stuff every year. But employees need corporations so that they can pay their bills and go on vacations and do the things that they love to do in life. And this is what I call the never-ending pimping cycle, which is part of the pimping methodology. In this second series of Pimp Points with the pimping methodology, I want to uncover 3 important points. The first point that I'm going to cover in this episode of Pimp Points is pimping yourself. When it comes to pimping yourself, there are 3 pimp points that I want to describe in this episode. You want to first discover your pain points. Secondly, come up with a plan to make a change in bettering your career. And lastly, is executing the change so that you can pimp yourself in order to pimp corporate America. In regards to your career, your success is all on you. You can't blame anyone else. It's all about you changing your mindset and you realizing that, you know what? I'm not happy with my career. I need to make a change. I want something better. I need to be pimped. When you realize that you've had enough and you really want to change in your career, this is when you jot down all of your pain points. The reason why it's so important to discover what your pain points are is because this will help you get to the next level with making the change of all the bad habits that you probably have done so that you can pimp yourself. When it comes down to discovering what your pain points are, it's important and vital to understand what it is so that you can make the change to a positive direction in your career. There was an old saying that my dad used to say, which is, if it ain't broke, then don't fix it. But let's be honest, if you're not happy with your career and if you're trying to get to the next level, of course you're not happy. And of course it's broken, so you might as well fix it. And that is what discovering what your pain points are. Realizing that something has to change so that you can be happy with your career. I know this may be a difficult pill to swallow, but if you're not able to face your pain points head on, you're not going to get to the next level of your career. So first and foremost, when it comes to pimping yourself, you have to discover what your pain points are. Now when you discover what your pain points are, now you want to come up with a plan to make the change so that you're not having those pain points and those bad habits that you're repeating over and over again with the same results that are not getting you anywhere. Coming up with a plan is always helpful because, let's face it, if you don't have a plan, you're already planning to fail instead of planning to win. It is very vital for you to have a plan to move forward and changing those bad habits to achieve success in your career endeavors. Discovering your pain points is the what, but planning is the how. So we talked about discovering what your pain points are, coming up with a plan on how to change those pain points so that you can achieve success with your careers. But the last part is easy actually. It's the execution part, which is making the change. Alright, so maybe it's not as easy as I just mentioned it. But I honestly think that the hardest parts of discovering what your pain points are and coming up with a plan, that takes a lot of work. When it comes to executing a change, I like to have a certain tactic with that. Allow me to give you an example. Anyone that knows me very well knows that I am a seafood lover. Being born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida is where I really learned to have that love for seafood like I do now. What I would do is I would set up with my plan certain goals and milestones, but I would use something as a bait. So if I know that I love seafood and I really want to get some crab legs and some shrimp and corn on the cob, just thinking about it, I just want it right now. And I would use that as a bait to say, all right, if I've done XYZ on my list, then I can go ahead and get some seafood. Now your bait in executing and reaching that goal doesn't have to be food. It can be going to a concert. It could also be hanging out with friends for a major event. The most important takeaway that I want you to get from this is that if you're pimping yourself, you have to make changes. So get rid of all of those bad habits because you're reaping the same results. In closing, for the first episode of the second series of Pimp Points for the Pimping Methodology is first, pimping yourself. And under pimping yourself, you have to discover what your pain points are, create a plan for yourself to make the change, and then the last point, which is making the change. Remember, the end goal is to pimp yourself in order to pimp corporate America. Meaning that if you want to upgrade your career, you have to make changes to achieve success. Thank you for tuning into Pimp Points.